Hello everyone. In this lesson, we'll write a GitHub action so that when we push to our master branch, an image is automatically built on GitHub and deployed to Heroku, a release is created, and our update is accordingly rolled out. Let's get started. To make GitHub actions work, we need to create a .github folder in the root. Within it, create a workflows folder and here's some arbitrary name. As far as I remember, if you simply write deploy.yml, you might have issues. So write something else. Apparently, the file name is reserved or something like that. And we need the following content. This name is what we'll see in our GitHub actions on the GitHub site. Then specify when to call it, when we push to the master branch. There are various ways some conditions can be set. If there is some string in the commit, if it isn't there, we'll just deploy everything pushed to master. And then we list jobs. We have one job. You can call multiple. They can be linked together. For example, first run the tests, then build, then deploy. And then we'll just deploy immediately. Good. Next, we specify the steps. Each step has a name. We will again see these steps in the GitHub interface if we want to track the process of our action, our workflow. And steps can be inherited from predefined ones. Well, we will use two predefined actions written by other people. It's exactly the same open source. You can go see what it is all about. We took Docker login action, Googled it, aha, and you can read about the settings this action has. So, actually, this step is just for oneself. It hides something, allowing you to pass something in a convenient format. Here, these are just pre-written commands for us where you can pass some props. However, we can write completely our own steps. Here we will have the third step. We can call the run command here. Yes, instead of uses, write run, and write our custom bash script, and anything can be specified here. You can even write it in multiple lines and so on. Okay, let's go step by step. So, first we need to authenticate to the Heroku registry. In the Heroku registry, this is exactly because, remember, in that lesson, there was a problem the first time we couldn't push. Here. And for this, we need to specify our email and our API key. These email and API key, of course, we will not set in our Heroku. It's an email file, so others can see it. And so we will need to set these variables in GitHub settings. Just as we wrote env for Heroku in Heroku settings, we will write these arguments in GitHub settings, and they will just be substituted here. That is, we will set them ourselves. Then there's the step where we build and push. Here it is. There's already a pre-configured script. You can take a look at it. Build push. That's it there. Yes. Docker build push. Good. You can check the documentation for its arguments. Right. The main thing is to tag it as we did, locally. Right? Here again. You need to insert the Heroku app name. Basically, we already know where we're deploying. We could just write our, ID nick info here, but let's keep it universal. Yes, because technically, we might have two productions. There, we'll name it idnick info prod and idnick info dev. And then it should be handled somehow, right? And then we pass the build args here. These build args are the same as these here. The same ones. Just so you understand, this Docker compose file won't be involved in all this. This Docker compose file is now only left for us to check something locally. That's it. Docker compose file doesn't participate in the push there. Here it is. All of it. The entire build and push are described right here. Here you need to specify the build args. As you can see, hostenv is not specified here. And it's not specified there because it's not needed there. And actually, it's not even needed here. I mistakenly added it. It doesn't help us at all. That's it. We just don't need it. That's it. As I said, hostenv should be dynamic. Because we built something that is single, hostenv is good for everyone. That's it. And possibly, we have two of them, dev and prod, remote servers. And there, this hostenv will be determined in envs, right on Heroku. So, this hostenv is not needed. We're removing it. Mistakenly added it there initially. It's just not needed. Okay? Now it's passed. Accordingly, see, these variables should also be in the secrets. Sentry out token. We need it during the build because we push source maps. And we take the source version, not from the secrets object, but from the GitHub object. And there, in .sh, lies this commit ID. Thus, during build, the source version will represent the ID of our commit, which is very convenient. Then, thanks to our Docker file, this same source version ends up in an env variable, and at runtime, we can also see it. Therefore, any errors that show up in Sentry or somewhere else, we'll know their correct source maps, which were built at the time of the image build. Great. So at this step, we simply built and pushed to the Heroku registry with that tag specified. And then we need to run the Heroku container release command. We ran this locally last time. For this, we need to specify that inside run, we will use a certain variable. Yes, that's necessary. We pass into it secrets. Maybe it's even redundant. Okay, let's experiment. Because, in my opinion, I had a problem that if it's not specified, it didn't appear here. That's probably for security purposes. For now, let's leave it. Later we'll try without it. Okay. Well, the idea is roughly clear. Logged in, built and pushed, called the release command. Great. Now we need to go to GitHub and add those secrets. Let's go to our project on GitHub. Okay, we see everything is up to date here. Settings. Here we need secrets and actions variables. One moment. So, let's start obtaining our APK. Account, settings on Heroku. APK. Let's do it. Copy it. How? To get it? Oh, here's the review. Good. That's it. Copied. Let's go to GitHub and set it up. What do we call this variable? Heroku APK. All right. New. Repository secret. Heroku APK. Insert the APK. Great. Then we need our Heroku email. Heroku email manager. Right. Then we need the Heroku app name. Okay. Perfect. Info. Good. And we need the Sentry auth token. Right. Sentry auth token. What's ours? Backend. And Sentry auth token. Ours is this one, okay? All the secrets are added. Let's try. So nothing else needs to be done. The main thing is that we defined this Heroku email file here. TypeScript. 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 TypeScript, 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 TypeScript. TypeScript, 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 TypeScript. TypeScript, 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 GST, 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 GST. GST, 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 GSTs, GST, 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 TS, 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 TS. TS, 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 GS2, GS2. GST, 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 because it will not store all caches there. Nevertheless, the deployment should still be faster overall because when we push to Heroku, the upload itself will be slightly faster since some layers are already in Heroku and will be reused by Heroku. But in theory, it works this way. While we wait, so our layers started pushing. It feels like Heroku doesn't remember anything. And still, everything is pushed anew. Well, okay. It means our average deploy build takes about 2.5 minutes. Fooled it so much, nothing caches there. Locally, yes, it caches. But there, it doesn't. So here's our Heroku release team. Meanwhile, we can look at the logs. Everything's missed there. Yes, he said that it was still a success, but there was no success. Here, you see, the creds didn't work out. That's it. So, after all, we needed this record because otherwise it wouldn't be included there. Ah, so I got it mixed up. We passed this one here. Well, for Heroku to make a container release, it needs to see Heroku APK in NVH. These are different variables because it's the same one. Because NVS has the Heroku APK, we can call the container release command in Heroku. That's what the issue was. Okay, we did it. Let's go again. Small fix again. All right? Git push again. Yeah. Actually, you can play around with the command line settings so that in such a situation, it throws an error and this step crashes. Right. And it will specifically show us here that it wasn't a success. But fundamentally, if you've once downloaded all the right creds, it will always work. So let's look at our actions. Small fix again. For now, our added item hasn't appeared because the release failed. Yes. Let's wait. So, deployment finished. Refreshing the page. And we see a 1 appeared. All right, great. I just talked to ChatGPT. It says if you write it like this, it should throw an error. But I'll secretly check this quickly now and tell you if that's the case. Okay, well, all of this is redundant. This command won't gracefully fail if Heroku APK is still not specified. If there's no Heroku APK in Enva, this command will prompt us to enter email, password, and more. And this isn't considered an error. So, you just need to specify env here. If the env here turns out to be invalid, then this command should, theoretically, fail. But with your APK, as I said, you set it up once, and it will work normally. So, I believe we've managed to handle the tasks overall, and now, everything deploys by itself when we push to GitHub and gets sent to Heroku. Next time you need to, perhaps, change something for deployment, it's if you decide to use any dependency that your server needs to operate your backend. For example, some kind of Office document parsing. So, you might need to install something, and then you can, here, add any additional package installations, etc. But generally, this setup is more than enough for you to develop almost any project. This workflow should suffice for you, and this Docker Compose for checking the local work of your Docker images. That's all. So just use, reuse, adapt to your projects, create, and deploy all. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.